Hello guys, welcome back to CodeLens, where we venture into the uncharted waters in matters software. If you are new to the channel, feel at home and be sure to subscribe and turn on the notifications so you'll be notified when I post a new video. Now let's get to the objective of our today's episode, where we are going to have a look at how we can be able to create a gRPC client. Now, as a prerequisite for this episode, please make sure you've watched our episode 1 of how we were able to create the gRPC server. You're going to need some of what we looked at into this also particular episode. So let's get started. Now, number one thing that we are going to do is we are going to create another module for the gRPC client. So in my case, I'm just going to come and do like this. I'm just going to add a normal Spring Boot application with just its bare minimums. So I'm just to use Spring Initializer. For the group, I'm going to call it com.codelens.grpc. For the artifact, I'm going to call it gRPC client. All right. I'm going to use Java 8 for now, but you can use any Java version that you want. Okay, I'm just going to use Lombok, and that should be it. As you've seen, this is just a very simple Spring Boot application. Right, then I'm going to say okay. Now, having done that, the next thing that we need to do is to add our dependencies to our gRPC client, the same way we did to our gRPC server. So I'm going to open our POM file for the gRPC client and also the POM file for our gRPC server. Now I'm going to copy some of the dependencies that we did add. So I'm going to copy the netty shaded, the protobuf, the stub, and the annotations API that is required for Java 9 and above. Okay, then I'm just going to come on the same side, on the client side. Then I'm going to add those dependencies. All right, so this one is screaming at us. So the proto version, we also need to use the same version that we use on this particular side. So I'm going to copy from our properties file, and then I'm going to add it on the client side. All right, now having done that, we need also to add the protoc extension and its plugin. All right, so for that, let's come back to our build part. I'm going to take the extensions. All right, I'm going to paste the same way here, and then finally I'm going to add our plugin. All right, so this is it. Right, and with that, we should be pretty much done with our basic configuration. So I'm going to reload so that our Maven project can be re-imported and other dependencies can be downloaded into our project. I think we should be good to go. Now, as we did on the server side, we now need to generate the stubs for our gRPC client. Now, to do that, I'm going to show you a simpler way other than the one that we did on our episode 1. So I'm going to click on the Maven tab right here. Then I'm going to select gRPC client, then the lifecycle. Then I'm just going to say package. Let it build. All right. Awesome, it has built successfully, and as you've seen, as it was starting to generate our client stubs, you've seen it has done basically the same thing that it did on our gRPC server, basically detecting our operating system and its architecture so that it can be able to download binaries that are specific to the machine in which you are building from. All right, that being said, now let us have a look at our target folder that has been generated. We will look at generated sources, and as you can see, we do not have our stubs generated yet. And do you know the reason? This is because number one, it came and tried to look at our source main proto folder, but there were no any proto files to be acted upon. So let us add that directly, proto, and then I'm going to take this same proto file that we added in our server, I'm going to paste it here. Now maybe you might be asking, why am I just reusing, or basically why am I copy pasting to another project? Take this scenario. Remember gRPC, you can use it to build any form of an application irrespective of the language. The only thing that those two systems are going to be using to communicate with each other is now the gRPC mechanisms. All right, so in this case you can just take the proto file that we generated on the server side, share it with your external system, which could even be developed using even Go, Kotlin, C#. So it's just a matter of giving them this particular proto file and they're good to go. They just now need to generate their stubs on their end and they should be able to match with our server side. I hope that makes sense, but if it doesn't, or you have any question clarifications, shoot them in the comment section and I will respond accordingly. Now having done that, let us regenerate our stubs. Before that, let me clean so that we can be sure that it is indeed doing what is expected. As you've seen, now our target folder has been deleted. I'm going to repackage again. Let's see what happens. Give it a minute. One more minute. All right, it has built successfully. Now let us have a look at our target folder again. Generated sources. We have now a protobuf and we have a gRPC server. We have remember this is the package that was created, and we have now our service generated as it was in our server side. Now with that, we are pretty much done. Now we can continue with our episode of creating now our client. Now for that, I'm going to come right here. I'm going to do a very simple demonstration for creating a client. Now for that, there's some login that I'm going to add. And number one is going to be the SLF for J from Lombok. At least I'm going to use that for login purposes. From that, now let us start our implementation. Now for that, we need a channel. All right, so for that, I'm going first of all to create a managed channel. All right, so I'm going to call it channel, all right, which is equals to a managed channel builder dot we need to use for target. I'm going to explain this in a moment. For target, then we are going to use plain text, and then I'm going to build. All right, now for this, for the target, first I'll put it here. I'm going to put it as localhost port 9800. Now for target, this address that we are passing here is for the server. Remember, in our server we said that our server is going to be running on port 9800 and is on localhost, at least in our case. All right, so that is why I have come here to our client and said, let this channel run on target also 9800. Basically it's going to use this port, or basically this address, to communicate with our server. All right, now having done that, we now need to create now our stub. So I'm going to come and say greeting service gRPC dot the greeting service blocking stub. All right, now I'm going to use like that. Then I'm going to say greetings gRPC dot new blocking stub. Then I'm going to pass in a channel. Now one thing I would like to mention here is that in this particular case we are using a asynchronous call. Basically this is a blocking request. All right, so what this means is that once we initiate a request, we are going to wait until we receive a response from the server. Now the client has the power to decide either to use the asynchronous or the synchronous calls. All right, so in our case, to make things simple, we are going to use the synchronous request. All right, now we having our stub, then now we create a hello request. Remember, we need to pass a request, or basically in this case a message, and then the server is going to give us a response. So in this case, we are sending a hello request message and we expect the server to give us a hello response message. All right, so let's build our request. It's going to be request is equals to hello request. All right, so hello request dot new builder, then dot build. Now before we also put the dot build in here, we need now to set the name. Right, so in our case we can call, let's say, CodeLens. right? So CodeLens. Now from that, now we need to make the call to the server and get a response. In this case, our hello response. So I'm going to say greeting. Actually, I'm just going to say hello response. We expect a hello response. Okay, is equals to now our stub dot greeting, right? Remember this proto file that we have here, it has a greeting method, right? Or basically an operation, a greeting RPC operation, so which is this that we are calling. So the greeting operation expects a greeting, a hello request, kind of an object, right? So with that, we have now we've now initiated a call now to our server, and we expect the server to give us the hello response as the response. All right, so I'm going to come and say here string greeting response is equals to response dot get the greeting. All right, now I'm going to log the greeting that we are going to receive and see what we're going to get. All right, so let me just do like that. After doing that, one important thing that we need to do is we need to shut down the channel. All right, and this must be done before stopping the whole process. Now, how do we do that? Very simple. We just need to do a channel dot shut down now. All right, so with this one, we've now shut down our channel. All right, now having done that, let us now run our application and see how it's going to behave. The number one thing that we are going to do is, first of all, we are going to run our server. Give it a moment as it wires up. All right, our server has started, as you can see here. Now we need to start our client, and I'm going to put some breakpoints here. Then we are going to run the client in debug mode. All right, so I'm going to click here, say select client, and then under run, I'm going to say debug the client application. Let's see how it's going to be. Right, so our first breakpoint has been hit. I'm going to click continue. All right, as you can see now, we have a response. So our client has been able to connect to our server, and our server was able to give us a response back. In this case, it is hello CodeLens. All right, as you remember, the only thing that we did on our server implementation is once we get a greeting, in this case from this name, we just append the word hello to the name that has been sent, which is exactly what we are getting. So as you can see, the value for greeting response is hello CodeLens. All right, so we are able to reach the server and it is able to give us a response. At least in this case, it is a synchronous request and you're able to get a response. All right, so we are shutting down the client, and that's pretty much it. All right, so as you have seen, we are now able to create a simple server and a simple client, and the two parties are able to communicate with each other. Now this brings us to an end to this particular episode. I really hope that you are now much better and you've learned something new. Let me hear your thoughts and your opinions in our comment sections, and we will be able to engage further. Without further much ado, I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.